Hey, hello everybody. Let's start. We missed 1 week, right? So what I will do, I will quickly show you what we did week before with the other group. You have the recording from that presentation, just to be sure that both groups have the same information. And today I will show you a few things about physics, and the rest of the class you will have time to work on your assignments. Based on what I know, we should have open labs during the reading week, so you should have enough time to finish assignment 2. Also, please send me emails with your groups for the group project. It's right about good time to do that, and then we'll add different things, and you should start working on your projects. Okay, so we'll start with a new project today. We'll create a game project. 6 sprite kit. Next. It's fine. So last week, what we did, we discussed how to make transitions between scenes, and also how to add active elements to the scene. What we can do, we can use this scene that is there right now, existing scene called game scene, and we can use SKS file to build a menu. Let's hide this navigator for a minute. Having, we'll need navigator because we'll need some components. Having those components here, we can add buttons here, or if you have, let's say you have some images ready, you can add them to your scene, or you can add the same thing you can do with Game Swift with the implementation, and let's say you can turn label or any image into active component, right? What you really need to do, building a menu or menu scene, you have to override method touches begun, and this will be your detection. So before we go there, before we start building menu, let's add second scene to our project. So we have this place that we want to go to, the game, the second scene, right? So I will do right click on my project, new file. And you can do two things. You can either add simply a Swift file and then inherit from SK scene, or you can go to, where is it? You can go to resource and then select sprite kit scenes here, right? This one. Now, what is the difference? If you select the Swift file, it will simply add implementation. If you go with this one, it will add both the SKS file and the Swift file to your project, right? So it depends what you want to do. If you want to just add programmatically everything, kind of the approach that we used in previous weeks, you can just add Swift file. If you want to add something into SKS, so meaning you want to build your scene using graphical interface, you can select this one. So I will select this one. I will call it second scene, create and I have SKS file added, right? Add something here. Or for example, I can add some images. Actually, I should add some images to my project. I have platform, and I have a ball. When you're adding stuff to your project with, using drag and drop, remember to check this checkbox, copy item if needed. It will detect if this item exists in the folder structure. And if it doesn't, it will make a copy, right? So this way you will avoid situation when you move your project, let's say from machine to machine, and then it does not compile because some resources are missing. Okay. And if I want to add my, let's say, a ball to this platform, I can just drag and drop. Make it smaller. This yellow rectangle is my camera. This is my view. I can configure this based on my needs, right? So I can change the size. So for example, you don't like the fact that it's in that this is in the horizontal position, right? You can turn it into portrait mode, right? It's landscape right now. But anyways, we have object added using the using the inspector here. You can configure tint, colors, position, size, and so on. But you can also add here physics body. Right? You know how to add physics body using code, right? You know how to create this object, but you can also do it here, right? You can select bounding rectangle, bounding circle, or alpha mask, and alpha mask will detect this. Pretty useful when you have something with transparent background. Alpha mask will detect where to add it. This is semi-transparent, so alpha mask is not working perfectly with it. I will use bounding circle. What else you can configure? When you select the type of the body that you want to add, where is it? Here, you can also configure different properties, right? So if it's affected by gravity, if it's friction, restitution, and so on, how this body behaves. Also, it generates category masks and collision masks. Right? So we will configure this too, the collision mask, especially the collision mask later. Right? Category mask defines a type of the body. So for example, an enemy, right? Or a ball, or puddle, or brick, depending on your game. And then using the category mask, you can define which categories, which objects, which type of the objects you want to interact with, right? So that will be the next step. So let's leave this scene right now, and let's go back to the sorry, to our original scene, to the game scene, games in Swift. Hide this. We can clean touches begun. We don't want those planes flying around too much. Right now, if we run it, we'll see just a plain screen with the label added, right? So that's what providing that I zoom out. Right, that's what it is. Now we can add some interaction to this. So for example, when I tap it, I want to go to the next screen, right? So I have label added. Instead of hello world, we can change this text to start. Now, if in touches began, what do we have to do? We have to first instantiate the new scene. So var new scene equals sk scene. Now we have few options, or three. NSCoder is used to instantiate something that already had a state defined. We don't want to use this one. We have a file, right? We have our SKS file. Let's select this one. And it's called second scene. If we want to display next scene, we have to use self.queue. And there is a method present scene. It gets an object, the new scene, and the transition. sk on let's do it here. Let transition equals sk transition dot let's say we want to do doors open horizontally, and then we have to say how quickly this transition is performed. Let's say 2 seconds. That will be pretty slow. Transition. Okay. This can be let var. And this is optional. So we have to use the exclamation mark. So this is a simple way to create those connections, right? So you have a start scene, you have your game, your main scene, you may have several levels, and then transitions between them, and then probably some game over transition. All of them are really performed by calling present scene from the view. If we play, a very interesting game, but something, right? So 3 steps really that you have to do to make a transition between scenes. First, you have to instantiate the destination. Second, you have to define how you want to make a transition. And in the presentation from the lecture, you have a list of different options that you have, right? Swiping, fading in, fading out, and so on. And then you use these 2 values to perform present scene, and that's the actual transition. Okay, now let's go to our second scene. And we'll play a little bit with physics in the second scene. Right now we've got only SKS file. Let's add also implementation. So let's add new file, source, Swift, second scene. Then we can connect these two components, right? SKS and Swift, setting up in SKS in identity inspector. We can say that this is implemented by second scene class. Now we have to add this class in the Swift file. So here, write kit class that implements SKC. So this is the similar approach that you have in UIKit, right? When you create a view controller and then you say, okay, this view controller is implemented by this class. And obviously there are some requirements. In this case, this class has to inherit from SKC. The first question that you may ask is, okay, I've added some objects, well, in this case, ball, to my scene is in SKS file. How do I refer to this object in my file, in my code, right? The answer is following. There is a method allowing you to find this object based on name. Did we add any meaningful name to this object? I think no. So we'll have to do that. I have to select object from my scene and make sure that the name makes sense. Let's call it ball. This name will be used in the code. Now let's go to the code. I will create a variable called SK node. Now I will implement function, actually override function with move to view. We use this function to set up our scene, right? What I can do here as well, I can find self.ball. I can find this ball. I can find this object in the scene. I can say self.child node with name. Say I want to find the ball. Also have a puddle in this game. We also SK node. Note that I'm defining my variables. I'm using exclamation mark at the end. What does it mean? Well, it means that this is optional, or potentially it can be empty, right? But everywhere in the code, when I call this variable, it will be unwrapped, right? So I will have actual SK node where I need it. I could also use question mark, but then I have to unwrap it myself whenever I use the variable, right? If I don't add anything, this code won't compile because it will say, okay, you have a variable, it's not initialized either here or in the init function, right? So I have to use, in this case, either exclamation mark or question mark. And the next step will be finding the paddle. Self dot. I have to add paddle to my scene, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Again, you can also add some physics to your paddle the same way, right? Using, let's say, in this case, bounding rectangle. With the paddle, we don't want this object to fall, so it won't be affected by gravity. We won't allow the rotation of the paddle. We will pin it. It won't be dynamic. It will be basically our floor. And let's make sure that the name is correct. Paddle. Save everything. Let's see what happens when we play. Opens, it falls. The circle, the bounding circle, is a little too big for this ball, but this is just a texture that I have. Okay. If you don't like the fact that our scene is cut this way, what you can do, really, you can adjust the size of the camera. Make sure that this fits the size of the screen. So for example, you can swap the dimensions, right? 7, 6, 8. Or show it this way. Yeah.
You change the landscape and when it falls, would it be really visible?
Sorry?
I know it's in portrait, right? So when the landscape that fits on it.
Yes, you can do that, right? You can make sure that the game starts in a in the landscape mode, right? Changing properties here. It's still not. Yes. So now the physics engine will take care of all kinds of collisions, interactions between those bodies, right? So for example, the ball does fall on the ground, bounces a little bit. We can play with those values and make it more or less bouncy and so on. But the question is now, how do we detect the fact that they did collide? Because we may want to do something with it, right? The answer is there is a mechanism to do that. You can implement the contact delegate, and this contact delegate will really trigger functions that implement your reaction to the collision. Now this will be implemented. First, your scene or some other class should implement that. Pretty common approach is to make scene to implement SK physics contact delegate. And if you implement this interface, this protocol, right, you have to add function on it begin contact. And this function is called when two bodies, any bodies, really will collide in your scene. The parameter contact contains all information about this collision. Specifically, it has body A and body B that collide. And from body A or body B, you can also get the node that the body is associated with. So for example, if you want to check if your ball is in collision, you can do this, right? If contact body A node dot aim is equal ball, or contact body B node aim ball, and let's say we'll just print ns log ball is colliding. Is it enough? If I run it, nothing is printed. So I'm missing two steps. The first thing, I implemented my delegate, but it's not associated with anything, right? I have to associate delegate with something. I have to associate it with the world. So self dot physics world dot contact delegate equals self will be my first step. That will tell the physics engine that whenever there is a collision within this scene, within this world, I should be notified, right? Is it enough? Let's see. No. And it's not enough because ball doesn't have the collision mask set. we have to decide which kinds of objects in the world will trigger this this behavior, will trigger notification. And to do that, we have to do self dot ball dot physics body dot contact mask. And here, using OR, we can concatenate all category masks that will be triggering the notification. Right. So in this case, it will be self dot huddle dot physics body dot category mask. We have more, right? If you have walls and some bricks and so on, you can just add or next, and so on, right? Or and bit or, not logical or. Of course. We have to add exclamation mark because physics body is optional. We have notification. What do you do with this notification? Or whatever you want. First, you may want to find out which one is really A and which one is B. Right, so let's do it this way. If the first body is ball, then we can add force or change velocity, right? We can say contact dot body A apply force CG vector make will apply force to the ball when it collides. You can also print this message in the other one. Let's try more force. You can't really see. Do this instead of working against the gravity. Is our body dynamic? Yep. Your scenes doesn't come So if you want your scene to be a delegate, you have to make sure that this delegate is implemented, SK physics contact delegate, right? And if this is applied to your scene, then you have to also add this method, right? Did contact delegate, did begin contact. See if we can do it something with velocity. It's working?
No. It seems to have been my second guess. Yeah. Basically, just
It's reacting to this.
that's what I always do.
Yeah, that's okay.
It just subtracts because I'm backwards. I'm backwards. No.
Yeah, that's
Oh, so it doesn't. Oh, it's should be the top one. Pretty much. Crazy. It's yeah. Yeah, it's just Make sure that follows.
Use command space, or just when you start typing, it gives you a list of choices, right?
When I remove this, it's not. It's function overrides.
Oh no, it's trending for your system. Yeah, that's. Full attack. Oh, it's no.
That's mysterious.
Oh.
Let's see. This is is that it? Oh, it's oh, it is not. Okay. Just gonna look for this
I like it. No.
Awesome. Thanks.
Maybe at the end.
So it's interesting.
Would you like to break there?
Okay, we'll continue with physics next week. No, in 2 weeks, right after the reading week. Right now, if you have questions about assignments and things like that, that will be a good time. I'll just stop recording and I'll talk to you.